Hey, what's up, blue collar business owner? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Masco, where we focus on helping guide you to have a prosperous blue collar business. Today, we have with us Alden. She is a seasoned small business strategist and marketer with over 15 years of experience specializing in the trades and home service industry. She dedicates her expertise to helping small business owners break through growth barriers and claim a larger share of the market. As a pumpkin plan strategist and StoryBrand certified guide, Ali uses proven strategies for scaling small businesses, identifying untapped opportunities, and creating a distinctive market presence. So that is Ali Alden. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. What is going on today?
Oh, I just cranking away. It's been a busy week and I've been out, just connecting with other business owners and building, some strategic partners and keeping things growing.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about this conversation, not only to have you on the show, but two of my all-time favorite books, The Pumpkin Plan and Building a Story Brand, are probably top five of all time for helping business owners out there. It's done tremendous stuff for all the businesses I've owned and operated. So I'm really excited about that. But before we jump into that, give our listeners just a quick kind of backstory on your journey and how you got to where you are today, helping blue collar businesses, home service people really, get their story out, get their sweet spot figured out and grow their business.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny because I always say that the way that my career kind of evolved is almost backwards in that I originally started as a brand designer. So my roots are in brand design and I focused on working with small businesses, a lot of them in the trades and home service industry. And I would help them with differentiating their business visually out in the market. And just kind of over time that evolved because what I saw was that, branding could do a great deal for a small business and helping them to make their mark and stand out among their competitors. But I started to see again and again, I'd be sitting across the table from these blue collar business owners and these other small business owners. And I just saw kind of the same patterns in that even though they were well branded and they had some nicely wrapped trucks, they were still facing a lot of the same problems on the inside of the business. And so that was where I got curious because I always had a passion for the business itself and that I wanted the business overall to be healthy and I wanted to see my clients succeed. And so that was where I kind of started on my journey was that after being a brand strategist and a brand designer for a number of years, I really was looking into what is the strategy behind that. So that was when I looked into StoryBrand. I got exposed to StoryBrand, and StoryBrand taught me about the power of messaging and how I could combine that with what I was doing in branding. And then it helped to remove some of those barriers, but it wasn't quite enough. And then that was when I continued the search and came across The Pumpkin Plan by Mike Michalowicz. And when I read that book, it was like this giant light bulb went on in my head. And I said, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what I've been missing. This is what my clients have been missing. This is the puzzle right here. And so that's kind of the pattern. And I say that it's backwards because now I actually kind of deliver that process backwards. And that I learned that you really need to find your sweet spot, which is what the Pumpkin Plan talks about, from Mike Michalowicz. You need to find your sweet spot in the marketplace and then develop your message and then develop your brand. And so even though I sort of learned it, what I would say backwards, I now deliver it.
Backwards again.
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's dive into that. And for the listeners out there that haven't read The Pumpkin Plan or haven't read Building a Story Brand, what is the Pumpkin Plan and how can our trade businesses use it?
Okay, so to boil it down, the Pumpkin Plan is all about figuring out where your place is in the market. And this is especially applicable to businesses in the trades and home services because What happens is that usually the person starting the business, whether they're, HVAC tech or a plumber or a painter, whatever type of business they have, they left their boss because they're like, my boss is a jerk. I don't want to do this anymore. Or they went, I want to be my own boss and I want to start my own thing. And, I don't want anyone telling me what to do. And that, which is a totally normal place to start. But then what happens is they go, okay, well, I'm an HVAC tech, or I'm a plumber, or whatever my specialty is, my trade is. And now what is everyone else doing? Right. So it's very natural to think, I'm going to start a plumbing business, an electrical business, an HVAC business, and kind of, see, well, what's out there and sort of do what they do. But the problem with that is that those markets are pretty flooded. I mean, across the board, I would say for trades and home services, there's a lot of competition. It's just how it is. And so what the pumpkin plan is it's helping you figure out where your place is in the market and how you can really kind of find your nice little niche in the market and build on that. And so it uses a process that, if you can imagine, if you're just listening to it, then I'll just kind of describe it. But if you can imagine a Venn diagram, it is 3 circles that are kind of overlapping. Okay. And if you're watching the video, you can actually see there's an example of this behind me on my wall. So anyway, so it's 3 circles, and those 3 circles are made up of your top clients, your unique offering, and your systems. And it's where all 3 of those things overlap that we call your sweet spot in the marketplace. And so one of the things, like I was saying, sort of the knee-jerk reaction when you first start a business especially in the trades and home services is, I have this specialty or this skill. Now I can apply it to kind of anyone and everything. Right? Like if I'm an electrician, for example, you could do residential electrical, you could do commercial. And even within that, there are a lot of different specialties, right? You could be the guy who does panel upgrades and lighting. You could also be the guy who's working on the electrical for, controls on a conveyor belt, or, you specialize in manufacturing facilities, right? So there's a lot of range when it comes to what you can do. And I would say that one of the biggest mistakes I see businesses in the trades making is kind of serving everyone everything. And so the idea with the sweet spot is when you can identify those 3 key things, being your top clients, your unique offering, and your systems, then you can identify a niche in that industry and avoid kind of the trap of being too broad.
Yeah. And I think that's a trap we fall into when we start any business. We just say yes to everything, right? It's like, we need revenue in the door. We just quit our job. Our spouse is really nervous, or we got to do this. So it's like, let's do some residential. Let's do some commercial. Let's do some industrial. Let's do some new construction. We'll do a little bit of service, and we do a little bit of everything. And we don't love any of it because we can't focus on the thing that we're probably actually good at. So, when you talk about that, it is so true, because there is something that we love doing. And you probably see it every day. I usually see it as a scarcity mindset of like, well, I can't say no to everything, but what I really want to do, there's not enough of that out there. So what do you tell your clients when they tell you that? Because I'm sure you hear it a lot of, well, I can't just start saying no to everything. What do you tell those clients?
Yeah, well, and it's not even just a black and white kind of like start now, drop everything process. It's a transition, right? So I help them first kind of identify what that is, so that you're certain that, where your revenue is coming from, like there's opportunity in that market, and it's a market that you serve especially well, right? But what I tell them, it's like, it's normal when you're first starting in business to kind of try some things out. And if you're not, if you're still kind of exploring, like that's okay when you're new in business, but you will hit a point where it's going to burn you out. And so to start saying no to things is really the key to growing your business, is that when you hit that point where you've, maybe you're in that place where you've been kind of taking on anything and everything and you're burning out, like that, there's your signal right there. It's time to make a change. And so, it can be really scary, when you start saying no to things, but that's also where um, it's kind of a two-part process, right? So it's don't just start saying no, but also start advertising, start marketing for more of what you want. Right. So that's what I talk about when I say like that this process is gradual. It's like identify what it is, identify who are your top clients, what is it that makes you really unique in the marketplace. And then once you have that information, you start asking for it. Right. So that's where you need to start using your marketing resources to start advertising and pointing at that audience so that you can start to grow it. And so that's one of the big misconceptions, that when I say, okay, well, you got to, find your place in the market. And then, yeah, you got to start saying no, that, okay, I'll just start saying no. And then, I have no business. It's like, well, like push the brakes. Okay. So it's not just starting to say no. It's in tandem with starting to ask for and seek more of what you want and start positioning your business in that direction.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, and we can kind of get into that next step here in a second. Of now that we know what, who our top clients are, who do we love working with? I know in the book, Mike Michalowicz talks about crush or cringe, whereas like if somebody calls you and it's your client, if you like ignore it, don't want to answer it, it's a really good signal of I probably don't want to do business with these people. So if you know who your top client is, what your unique offering is, and what your systems are, that'll at least start to build exactly what type of business you want to build. And then we can kind of get into the messaging, because I see, where a lot of business owners get stuck too is when they do a little bit of everything, they can't really start to hire anybody, because in their mind it's like, well, I'm the only one that can do 17 different types of plumbing or 17 different types of electrical work. Whereas if we narrow it down to a couple, it makes it a lot easier to start to hire. So what do you see, as they're going through this growth process? What are some of the biggest things that are getting in the way where business owners are struggling to grow?
Right. So, and it really, it all does still come down to that sweet spot. And let me explain why. Because basically, when you're serving too many types of audiences, too many types of services, what happens is that now you have, like, if you imagine them as like different SKUs in your business, like each different type of service you offer is a different SKU, and each audience that you offer is a different type of SKU. Well, now you've got to create systems for that service. And so you're writing SOPs for all of those different, hopefully writing SOPs for all those different services, or figuring out how to accommodate them or work them into your CRM or work them into, whatever your technology stack is. And in addition, those are all individual learning curves, right? So usually the business owner themselves is very diverse because they've been in it. They know how to do all of these different job types, right? Like they can, you're a plumber, you can do everything from a leaky faucet, and unclogging a toilet, to maybe even complicated radiant heat systems, right? So they've been in it. They know how to do a large range of services, but when it comes down to hiring other people who know how to do those, and that's where they struggle to scale, right? That's where you find yourself not being able to grow, because not only are you trying to create operations and systems around each of these services, but now you're trying to bring other techs or, employees in to learn all of those different services. And most people just aren't that diverse in their skill set. So it's just adding more layers of complication, which means it takes more time. And that's, ultimately why you'll struggle to scale.
For sure. So let's kind of pretend we're a company. Now we've figured it out. We've got our sweet spot dialed in. We're starting, to really get that figured out. But now we need to kind of build that story brand per se, because using your journey, you kind of did it backwards, and now you're doing it. Hey, let's first figure out a sweet spot. Then let's figure out the messaging. Then let's go build the brand. When it comes time to start building that messaging and talking to our ideal customer and all that, what are some of the things that you see work, don't work? Kind of give our listeners an insight into how that process even gets started.
Yeah. So after getting clear about where your sweet spot is, and especially who your top clients are, then you can speak specifically to that person. So for example, if you found that you do really well with let me think of an example. You work really well with maybe elderly clients, and say you're a handyman, right? You're a handyman and you work really well with elderly clients, right? That's going to give you a lot more focus. And once we can identify that, now we're going to be looking at what does that subset need? What do those clients need? So if I'm elderly, what's going to appeal to me over, maybe someone who's able to do some of these things around the house themselves? Well, it's probably safety, or just not having to, risk it, or maybe I'm just, I don't have anyone to help me with those services. So now we can be a little bit more specific around what their problems are. So, well, you have little repairs that need to be made around the house, but you either don't know how to make those repairs, or it's dangerous to get on a step ladder, right? Like, we can help you with that. So you can see right there, even just change, like getting a little bit more focus on who we're talking to gives you a little bit more specification on the problem. So once we've identified that sweet spot, and I mean, knowing who your top clients are and what your unique offering is, then the process is, how do we communicate that to your audience, right? And so what StoryBrand teaches, and so just for anyone who doesn't know what StoryBrand is, so StoryBrand is, it's a book written by Donald Miller, and it basically is a 7-part process that uses the power of story to construct your marketing message. And so the power of story, the reason why they use story in StoryBrand is because story is one of the most powerful tools when it comes to helping people not only remember your message, but also stay tuned. So story is something that when you invite people into it, it retains their attention. So that's the idea with StoryBrand, is that it's using the power of story. But one of the main tenets in StoryBrand is that it focuses on making the customer the hero. And so now this is sort of a paradigm shift. Okay. So something that, especially when you're in the trades, right? Like, what did you go to school for? What did you do training for? You went to training to replace or repair ACs, or, to repair plumbing, or to do, electrical work. Like, probably you didn't go to school for marketing and to learn how to, be a copywriter, right? But that's, the power of words is so important in the way that you communicate your business to your market. And so the idea with StoryBrand is that you're actually kind of using a formula to break it down. And what happens is, usually when you start a business, or when you're starting to market a business, what you think is, okay, I've started my painting business, right? Like, I need to be impressive. I need to really share, like, that I'm trustworthy and I'm skilled and I do a really good job, so that people will like me and they'll work with me. So that's usually people's approach to, to their marketing, or to talking about their business, is that they kind of make themselves the hero, in that they're saying, oh, well, look at my reputation. Look at all these jobs I did. Oh, I've had my company. We've been around since 2017, and I have experience in this, that, or the other. And what StoryBrand teaches is that you actually need to stop talking about yourself and making yourself the hero, and make your customer the hero of the story. And so it sort of flips the script on how we would market a business.
Yeah. And for anybody listening that hasn't read the book or listened to the book, it's phenomenal. Same with the Pumpkin Plan, but building StoryBrand, really, it uses real life. What I like is it uses real life, like movie examples of, like, why are movies so captivating, and what are those 7 parts, and how do the best movies use those 7 parts? And for me, it really kind of hit of, like, when I was a partner in a landscaping company, of, like, what do our clients actually want? They don't really care that we cut grass. They don't really care that we can edge really well, or that we've got 100 years of experience and all that kind of stuff. Like, what are they actually looking for? They're actually looking to get their time back. They're actually looking to not spend all weekend in the yard. They're actually looking to have the best yard on the block, because they all want to brag about that. Where then they become the hero to their family of, like, I don't have to cut the grass. I get to hang out with the family this weekend, or whatever. It just gets really hard. What I have found is really hard for a lot of business owners to do that because it kind of hurts our ego of like,
Mhm.
nobody really cares that I have all this experience, and nobody really cares that I can wire up a panel better than anybody, or I can cut grass better than everybody. And unfortunately, they don't, but they do know you'll do that really well if you make them feel really good through the entire other parts of the process. So when
Mhm.
it comes to the trades, as we kind of start putting all these pieces together, somebody out there listening of like, wow, this is really starting to make sense. And I haven't really done any of this stuff. I don't really know who my ideal customer is, or I do, but I'm a little afraid to do it. What do you tell the people that are kind of on the fence of scarcity mindset of like, this stuff sounds great, but
Mhm.
I don't have time to do it. I don't know about it. What do you tell those people that are on the fence?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's really really what's going on in the scarcity mindset is that you're afraid that you're not going to get the work and that you're going to see a dip in your sales. And what's really odd about this process is it's sort of counterintuitive because your intuition tells you what I just said of like more is more. And what this is trying to teach you is actually less is more, right? The more that we focus on those higher level projects or higher level clients or the work that we actually want and are good at, that's actually how you grow your business. And so what I would say, is like it really just it comes down to the money. And the area where I help people focus is looking at like if you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule, you've ever heard of Pareto's law, right? It's the idea is that 20% of your inputs produces 80% of your outputs. And it's 100% true in business, is that usually your top 20% of your clients or your customers are actually producing 80% of your actual revenue. And so that's usually like my number one challenge is that just to consider that if you were to open your QuickBooks, for example, look back on a year's worth of all of the jobs that you did, and then sort that by highest revenue to lowest revenue and start to look at some trends there, you'll probably start to see what I'm talking about in that usually the repeat customers, the ones that are spending the most with you throughout the year, the ones that you want to duplicate, they're at the top of the list. And that's where you need to be focusing, is because those are the people who are actually kind of paying the bills. And the more that you know about that group, the more power you have to be able to replicate that group. And that's where you need to be, focusing your time and money and growing your business. And the opposite is true. If you look at the bottom of that list, the bottom 20% is usually causing 80% of your headaches and your problems. And so it's looking at the bottom of that list and going, all right, what are some trends here, right? What are they buying? What are the services that they're buying continually? Are they, buying the lowest level? Do they are there repeat purchases? Are they coming back for more? Are they referring others? Chances are no. Chances are you're not getting a lot of activity and you're getting a lot of onesies, twosies, kind of down at the bottom of that list. And so that's what I say is, like if you don't believe in the theory or the process, just look at the money.
That is true. And the numbers don't lie. And I think this is a perfect kind of normally what I do at the end is say, what's one thing we can do within the next day to help move our business forward? You just gave them the first step. Go to your QuickBooks, go to your service titan, go to your job or whatever it is, and run that report. And you'll probably notice people who are spending the most money with you those are the type of customers you want more of, and the people at the bottom aren't. So with that information, since I have read the book, I'm going to throw this back to you because I think this is step two. Once we've done that, in the pumpkin plan, what do we do with that information? What kind of questions, what kind of conversations do we have with those top customers so we can start to duplicate them? I think this will really kind of turn the light bulb on and give some people really actionable advice to take next.
Oh, sure. So after you've done that process, looking at your top and your bottom, then it would be looking at what are the patterns that you're seeing again, and what services are they buying, but what are the patterns in their demographics? So are you working in similar zip codes? Are you seeing similarities in age or gender? Are you seeing similarities in maybe what problems or needs that they have. And really it'll start to tell a story about who these people really are. And then the next process is, now that you've kind of painted a picture, it would be picking out some names on that list. And usually those are some of your best people. Those are your best clients or customers. And you can take it a step further by asking them what their wish would be of. So we do wish list interviews, and I'll give just a little bit of a preview. It's a little bit more involved than what I'm about to share. But with the wish list interviews, what you're doing is you're collecting those names of those top people. You're saying, if I could duplicate these people, it would be incredible. And then you're actually interviewing them to ask questions like, if you could have anything from my business, what would it be? Or if you could tweak or change anything from businesses like mine, what would it be? You can ask them questions like, if you're looking for services like mine, where would you look? If you were trying to buy, painting services or plumbing, or where would you look? And that starts to give you a little bit of an idea into how they think and where they would be shopping for your services, and what's going to sway them to working with someone like you versus your competitor.
Love it. And all of that flows right in. Everybody listen, that flows right into then what is your messaging, right? So now you know exactly who they are, what do they like to do, where do they spend their time, where do they look for services, what are they trying to avoid when looking for contractors, all the things. So encourage everybody out there, check out the books, get started. Allie just gave you basically the first two steps that you can just go and start doing, so you can really figure out what that sweet spot is. Allie Alden, thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your journey and providing a ton of actionable advice and wisdom for all the blue collar business owners out there as we continue on this journey to prosperity. But before we sign off, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you, and if they're interested in learning more about you, your services, and what you offer?
Yeah, so that's great. If you want to go to alliealden.com, that's my website. If you want to get some more information specifically about the sweet spot, I'll also include a worksheet and activity. So you can find that at alliealden.com /sweet spot. And I'm going to upload a worksheet there that'll kind of get you started.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that. Guys out there, Allie is ALI, Alden is ALDEN.com /sweet spot. Allie, thanks again for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
And before you head out, if you are ready to have a business that produces consistent positive cash flow so that you can have a financially healthy business and achieve your personal goals, let's make it happen. Head on over to thebluecollaradvisors.com /call to book a free financial assessment of your business. I will dive into the financials of your business, take a look at what's going on, find any red flags as well as opportunities that you have in your business. Let's make it happen. Again, thebluecollaradvisors.com /call. Until next time, remember, what got you here won't get you there. If you're ready for different results, it's time to start doing things differently.